episode 20. I don't know how we got here. I think as a fan base, we're all pretty miserable as being Liverpool supporters, but we'll come to that. We'll come to that. I'm sure it'll, you'll see me in floods of tears, and it's all very slot out at the moment. And yeah, I think that's the general consensus. But should we go straight into betting for once, and let's see what Kate's got for us?
Yeah, sure. Why not? We can talk about Liverpool because there's a Liverpool bet here. We'll get there last. Um, I do have three this week. Leeds are playing Brentford at home. Leeds to score first is right around even money, depending on where you get it. This is a Brentford side that are entertaining, like to go up and down. They finished 2-2 with Wolves again over the weekend. But it's also a Leeds team that we've talked about before that come out and press heavy, press high up the pitch, don't concede a ton. So there's a world here where they kind of just they're on the front foot from the off, have most of the chances early, and hopefully can find one. Second one is Nottingham Forest plus half a goal. They're at Tottenham. Um, Tottenham did get the point the other week, but they're still not playing particularly well. Number one and number two, they're really injured, and they're going in against a team that was a Forest team that are going to love to sit back right before a break. And normally that means for teams that are struggling, you kind of just want to get to the break. You don't want to lose your game going into the break, and you kind of just want to get over the line a little bit here. And I think Tottenham will be for they're ahead of Forest a little bit there by goal difference or whatever it is. I think if that game is 0-0, 1-1, 70 minutes, I think they'd be comfortable with a point and going into the break ahead. So Forest plus half a goal at Tottenham. And then the last one, we were talking about Liverpool. We will, I imagine, there's Brighton plus half a goal at Liverpool or home to Liverpool. This is a really weird spot for Liverpool in general. They had that letdown over the weekend. And regardless of what result comes in the Champions League, I imagine it'll be one of those games that's pretty emotional. Crowds starting to boo a little bit. Um, Either you're coming back from way down or you're coming back from a goal down and holding off and doing the whole comeback at Anfield thing, which is a bit draining, or you lose this game or don't go through, and that would be heavily draining, I think, on the team there, going away from home to a team who's solid at the back, doesn't give up a ton of goals, and can hit on the break. So awkward spot for Liverpool at Brighton at the weekend. So Brighton plus half.
Okay, excellent stuff. So Leeds to score first versus Brentford, Forest plus a half a goal at Spurs, Brighton plus half a goal versus Liverpool. I think your Leeds one is really interesting, Kurt. I think Leeds haven't scored in the last three. Brentford have scored six. So I guess what's your rationale on that one?
Yeah, Leeds are a funny team for me because all their metrics are really nice, and they just come in and the forward line's a bit funky, but they do create a bunch of chances. I mean, Calvert-Lewin missed a penalty the other day. They played the last game with like half a guy, and they do go through those spurts where they don't create. But Brentford are a team that like to play high on the road. They're a team that they don't like to turn the ball over, but they do turn the ball over playing out of the back. And it's just a pretty good fit for a Leeds team who are going to press really high, at least for the first 45. They're really, really aggressive. And if they can just nick the ball off early or find a way over the high line, I think it's just a better spot for Leeds. The Leeds has trouble with, those teams that are comfortable sitting back, playing long. Um, the Evertons, the West Hams, teams like that who are not going to let them press. But Brentford are going to let you press because Brentford want to play out of the back. So I think it's a good spot.
Yeah, and I think between them, they've had some odd results. We've got Leeds drawn with Chelsea, drawn with Villa, Brentford drawn with Arsenal. They've drawn the last two as well. Obviously, Wolves are having a bit of a mini resurgence on that one. So, yeah, I think you've got two teams with really odd form over the last
Mm.
five.
Every time I look at Leeds' form table, it's got like four draws out of the last five. It feels like every time. It doesn't matter where you're looking. It's just draw, 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 draw.
At the moment, a bet for Liverpool is one of the most difficult things you can do. So, yeah, it's real terrible times for Liverpool right now.
Yeah, lots of unders, slow games, stuff like that. First half unders are really good if you like that kind of stuff. If you get that kind of stuff also. Um, but yeah, just slow games in particular at the moment. So slow
Yeah,
games in particular make for awkward results for favorites quite a lot in most sports, particularly this one.
yeah, and I think that's exactly what we've seen with Liverpool, who are just trying to hold on to one of the leads and just can't do it. So yeah, it's one of those things. But no, really good selection there, Kurt. Cole, any advances on that?
No, I think I agree with Leeds. Anytime I've watched Leeds, they always start, as Kate said, with a high energy in the first half. They really go for it, and they seem to tire in the second half. And Liverpool, and we've done the bet to me over 17 and a half goals. They scored 17, but they actually scored, I think, 6 in the first half and 11 in the second half. That's just typical of how Liverpool are playing in this season, where first half slow, controlled, second half they chase it a bit. So that I think that's an interesting bet on the under 1.5 goals first half for Liverpool as well. Maybe the last couple of games of the season, but he's also got to go for it now on his slot.
But I think that's the problem, and that's one of the things that, as a fan base, we're just not seeing. So there's nothing's changed in the last 6 months. The play is exactly the same. I think if you'd asked any match going supporter, if Liverpool showed signs of playing better football and there's a I think we've seen it, Klopp's early days. There'd be some times where we'd lose 2-1 or we drew 2-all, but then there'd be games where you're winning 4-5-1 and you really see it click.
Yeah,
That step up just hasn't happened this season under Slot, and that's where I think Liverpool are really coming unstuck, and I think that's why the fan base is unraveling a little bit as well.
yeah. I think football teams in general. We commented, didn't we, last season on when we got the stats up over 10 years on the shots dropping and the crosses dropping and the tackles dropping and everything dropping year on year. So I think a lot of teams play this way. I didn't enjoy watching City when they were successful. I haven't really enjoyed watching Arsenal. Liverpool are very similar to Arsenal at the moment. I think that's why we love Klopp, wasn't it? Because all teams were going this way, but then Klopp wasn't, and I think that's what our team was built a little bit on power and pace, wasn't it? With Mane and Salah, and even when he bought players for midfield like Ox and players like that, it was always quick, powerful, fast players that could get forward and get in the box. Whereas at the signings what we've made recently, although the very good players, even Ekatike and Frimpong and Vitz and players like that, they haven't really settled after this yet. But Frimpong's been injured. I think it's probably a bit unfair on him. He's got a bit of pace, but the other players are more slow, technical players, aren't they? I think so. It's interesting. And by the way, it looks like Hughes might even go before Slot, mightn't it?
Yeah, I've seen that news today that he's looking at Saudi Arabia, and again I think it's probably symptomatic of what's going on this season at Liverpool. I think we can all look back to the summer and look at the signings, and I don't think any one of us, and I don't think anyone else looking at us would have argued that Liverpool didn't have a good summer. But for one reason or another, the players are just not gelled. They've not really, settled into the team. But I think at the same time, some of the players who have been Liverpool stalwarts, Mo Salah, the drop off on him has been astronomical. I don't think we've ever seen the likes over the last 10 years with Mo Salah. The drop off of standards of some of the players, Kanate, Van Dijk, Allison at times.
Yeah,
It's been really, really stark. And again, I think really, I think this weekend's game was the first time that you've really started to see majority of the fan base now turn to a slot out point of view rather than given till the end of the season. And we're recording this on the Tuesday, Liverpool playing the next day on the Wednesday. That's going to be massive for slot. I think you could almost suggest that if Liverpool go out tomorrow, Slot could be sacked by Thursday. But it's Liverpool. They sometimes they will just stick with the man as you go through. So yeah, it's a real test and time to be a Liverpool supporter right now.
yeah. It's the
Um,
results. It's the results and the brands of footy combined, isn't it?
yeah, it is. And there's been games where Liverpool have lost and lost, as expected. But as you say, Cole, it's the brand of football that
Mm,
for want of a better way, there just isn't one.
yeah,
No one can see anything where Liverpool are going to play attractive football because they just don't. How many times do we have to say this season that Liverpool in the first half was just a complete mess? but that's time and time again. So
we are in a strange transition period as well, though, because since Hughes came in, probably 2 years ago, is it now? We seem to have a lot of drama around contracts, don't we? If you think about Trent and then going for nothing, and then we have Kanate looks like he's going for nothing, and then we had Van Dijk sign the contract at the last minute, getting a bumper deal, and then Salah signed the contract at the last minute, getting a bumper deal, and recently we've had Jones and stuff. It seems to be there's every contract's a saga at the moment, whereas for many, many years they were just done, weren't they? They were either done or not done. You were either sold or they signed a contract, but everything seems to be everyone seems to be dragging their feet on the contracts at the moment, either the club or the players, and I think that creates a little bit of uncertainty, maybe in the club and maybe in the dressing room with players as well. It doesn't seem to be clicking, does it?
no, it's not smooth. I'll bring Kate in on this in a moment because I'll be interested from his point of view, from the American standpoint, and how very different it is in contracts over in America. But I think we spoke about Chelsea when they went through that spell of offering 6, 7, 8 year deals, and I was a little bit. It's not necessarily a bad thing, that, because you get players on a contract early. And I think it's a little bit what Liverpool have done with Gravenberch. They're looking at a player who they can nail down for 6 years. His wages won't change for that period. And that's, Chelsea have probably got a lot of their players on a fairly low wage over a long period of time where they just don't have to worry about a contract. So I think you're right, Colin. Liverpool are the masters of getting themselves into a conundrum when it comes to contracts. And maybe the solution is, and we know with amortization you can't put it over the 6 year, 7 year periods. It's got to remain over the 5. But maybe that's the way out, to go, well, actually we won't give 5 year contracts now. We'll give 6. We'll give 7.
Yeah.
And then that kind of shows a bit of impetus from the club to the player as well. So, but I guess, Kate, what's your take from an American standpoint? Because I think it's fairly obvious you see contracts 10, 11 years. Baseball, you see 12-year deals. I guess how do you see this happening with Liverpool, or do you just kind of scratch your head and wonder why they do it?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things that are happening, particularly at Liverpool, that are a little bit different. I can speak on the Chelsea thing. That is very much an American thing that I do like, and I think football in general will move that way just as a whole. It's tough to look at a player that you have that's really good at 22, whose contract runs in 2 years, and you're like, it's almost like we can speak on Liverpool. I think Liverpool are just like that rung below a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, not in an offensive way, but you just are. You're just not going to beat out those two. So if a player wants to end his career at one of those two places, you're kind of just out of luck in terms of signing a player long. That's what happens with Kanate. It's what's happened with Trent. And it's just awkward timing with those things. So long contracts, one, prevent those things, and two, tie players down through their prime. So even if you wanted to move a player, or even if a player wanted to move, the money you should get back would be theoretically like a good transfer. It's not like Trent's leaving for free next year. We're gonna have to sell him at like 40 million or 30 million. Trent's leaving. Trent wants to leave. His contract's still got 4 years on it. We're getting 100 million back, stuff like that. So I do like that aspect, and I do expect that aspect to kind of just fill its way in to just soccer in general. Well, maybe not some of the smaller, less rich clubs, but some of the bigger clubs I expect. And I think our situation's kind of funky because Liverpool do a lot of things numerically, a lot of numbers, a lot of like a Brighton or a Brentford. It's all about fitting. Are you going to make up on your wage? I think with Liverpool, we've had a lot of players recently come through where the club are in a weird spot because our expectation as a fan is get Salah signed, get Van Dijk signed. Why aren't these players signed? And in the room, they would like to. But in the room, it's tough to look at 300K a week and know that Salah's 32, and that's not going to get better at all. It's just going to probably get worse as it goes. And I think they end up getting stuck with what they want to do and what they kind of have to do with what the fans want and stuff like that. And we've had plenty of players like that recently. We had that with Henderson almost at the time. We had it with, as we said, Salah, Van Dijk. We've had plenty of players on that 30-year-old cusp where you're like, how can you get rid of a player like that who's been so important for us for so long? And then on the paper, it's like we're paying someone who should be in their prime, who's most likely is going to decline throughout the rest of this contract. So I think Liverpool in particular have been in a couple weird spots with some of our contracts, but that's just kind of where we're at.
I was going to say a lot of these players, if you think about Van Dijk, Salah, Alisson, Robinson, they are all either side of 30, aren't they? It's quite interesting where someone like Ferguson, in his day and age, he just sold them, didn't he? Whether it was Roy Keane or Paul Ince or Mark Hughes, rather than have them get to the later years and start going on that decline, his option was to sell them and get them out the door, wasn't it?
If 2 years ago I looked at you and went, for the team to get better long term, we are not re-signing Van Dijk, we're not re-signing Salah. Like, you look at me like I was nuts.
Yeah.
So it's a really awkward position to be in. I think they've found a decent medium, because every time we do sign players like that, they're like 1 or 2 year little deals, just small. Because I know that sits on the front of their mind, it sits on the back of ours, but it sits on the front of theirs, that they should at least be playing to their wages. But yeah, you just get funky little periods like this.
It's definitely in it. I think that's probably where there's a bit of a difference between American-based sports and the Prem right now. I feel like American-based sports have got that down a bit more. They kind of know when to let those players go, and sometimes, and obviously with the Red Sox, getting rid of Betts and and Rafi Devers, these are real big ticket players in the prime. But they almost seem to know when to get rid or when to not. Whether the fan base like it or not is a totally different matter. But they seem to have that kind of nailed down a lot more. And yeah, I think you're right, Kurt. I think especially, I wonder whether Gravenberch having now this 6 year deal is almost like the start of Liverpool getting into the habit, because I think the problem with the 5 year contract, which we always see, is you get through year two and it all just starts again. You're not renegotiating a 5 year contract. You're renegotiating every 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So it's just pulling all those conversations back and all that uncertainty back. And those players know that must be looking across and going, well, if he's thinking of going to Real Madrid, well, hang on a minute, what's that mean for me? And it must just fester throughout the club. Whereas if you'd had a core where you're like, we're all tied down here, we're not going anywhere, that can only generate, better synergy with the players, maybe.
Yeah, the optional contract extension is always a good one, but I don't know how many players would accept that. So Alisson, for example, he got down to his last year and we triggered an extra year again, didn't we? So if you could sign someone on, say, a 4 year deal or a 5 year deal with the option of another 2 years, but it's how many players would actually sign that contract. If you can do that, you're putting the stack on the cards in the club's favour a little bit then, aren't you?
The players will always want a little bit of freedom in what they want to do. Free transfer allows them a bumper payday as well. Trent's obviously gone to Real Madrid. There was a signing on fee still included, even though Liverpool made a small profit. But that transfer fee effectively just goes to the player then. So the players want that freedom as well. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But I think at some point, the Premier League especially, and I think again, just touching what Kate's on, I think this is going to be the top end of the spectrum. It's going to be like your top 8, your top 9, your top 10 are going to say, listen, if you want to play for us, you're going to be signing a long-term deal, because there's no other way we're going to bring you in, and the players are going to have to follow suit a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, it's a balancing act as well, isn't it? Because you sign someone on a 6 year deal and they get a bad injury, you're still paying them wages for 6 years, aren't you? So it is a balancing act. But
yeah.
How many bad injuries do you get nowadays? Though you probably don't get as many as what you used to get 2 years. I wouldn't have thought.
No, and I'm sure Kate knows this story. It's like the old story with Scottie Pippen, and he signed a long-term deal to secure the money for his family. And I know you've watched the program, but actually he ends up being one of the lowest paid players there. But he was in the contract. The chairman weren't going to renege on it, so that was that.
Yeah, didn't he sign a 10-year one? Was it a 10-year one he signed, and then baseball started booming, and he was stuck on the low contract?
Yeah, and he'd done it for all the right reasons. I think he had family members who had hefty medical bills and so on. So it still made him a millionaire. But the the Bulls were on an upward trajectory, and he was stuck on this low contract. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah,
it's a bit risky on everybody's side, because it's like, if I get better, I would like to get paid more. Obviously, if you're a bigger part of the team, you'd like to get paid more. But as a team, you could also end up in a situation that's like Mudryk, and immediately he's a flop, and you've paid all this money for him, and his wages are high. You expect him to be good, and now he's got 7 years where you're just like stuck on the contract, and that happens in all the sports here. Sometimes you put out a bad contract, and you're kind of just out of luck. But even with Gravenberg, if you notice, his contract ends when he's 29. Like, they still, I imagine a lot of them will be like particularly with the young kids, if you can get some longer contracts in, like someone who's 19, 20, and you think he's like Rio, you think he's going to be around a long time, and you can get 7 years out of that, like just on the first one, and you can, incrementally increase whatever you want. You can always go back and renegotiate, but just having that like stability is super nice. And there are plenty of players, I imagine, who would choose long-term stability over top end dollar, just like betting on themselves long term. Like, I can get 7 years for 30 million, and instead we can do 4 years, and I have to be good for 4 years to end up at 40. So there are plenty of players I think could choose that too.
Yeah. You could get complacent on a long contract, couldn't you? That's the other deal of risk.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that some of the really long ones don't turn out super great sometimes, but it's part of the risk. You have a player who has a really good attitude. Like, I imagine if you gave Salah that contract a really long one a while ago, I imagine there's no dip. He's just somebody who wants to be like the best in the world all the time, and win all the time. So you got to have good attitude probably for some of them.
Hey, here's a question to finish that conversation off. Then you sign the top player tomorrow. Let's say he's 23 years of age. How many years would you give him, Kurt?
7.
Bean, what would you give him?
Spot on, 7. I think that's the 30 is the new 28 a little bit in Premier League now.
I'm uncomfortable with the 7 still. I'm thinking 5 still. I'm thinking if he gets injured, we carry on paying him for another 3 years.
Carl, stranger things have happened. Chelsea have just given Reece James another contract. The best ability is availability, and he's never available.
Yeah.
Never fit. He's like Lallana. He's just hamstring. That doesn't get better either. That hamstring's like the one thing that just never comes back all the way. That just continues to get worse too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if he ran, but he never ran anywhere. He always just danced on the ball in a 5-yard sector. So great turn on him though. Great turn on him. Have we covered Liverpool enough? Are we? Yeah, I think we have.
Yeah, they'll win tomorrow. They'll win tomorrow, definitely. 3-0 tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I've just done 2-0 on my Super 6. So yeah, we'll see what comes about of it and where it goes from there. So I think, Cole, we had a bit of you wanted to add a bit of a section in about the fancy footy. So we've got a team of the week, and we're going to pick some bets from it.
Yeah, so I'll give you a fancy footy update to start off with. So we're getting near the end of the season. So the pre-match mix, £100 winner competition. We've got 27 teams in there at the moment. It's actually quite tight at the top. So there's 26 points separating the top 3. So between Thomas Evans, Jonathan Duffy, and Josh Dyson. Last week's best team was Samuel Lowe, so well done, Samuel. And his team was Amarin or out. So I presume he's a Man United fan who's infiltrated our Liverpool podcast. But well done, 73 points. So yeah, I think the idea being is each week as we try and look forwards to the matches, we all pick a player that people can put in the fancy footy team who we can sort of tip and predict that they're going to have a good weekend. But also we can turn it into a bet between the 3 or 4 of us. So, yeah, I've pick my player this week. Paul, what player would you pick for your fancy footy team, and can you put it into a bet?
Who was your pick, Col? Because I've just seen one player in particular and wondering whether it's yours.
Go on. Well, I actually picked a player out of his team, the team of the week. I'm going to go with someone from the team of the week. So I'm going with Bruno Fernandes. And my reason being is he's got 4 assists in the last 3 games, so he's in form. He's also got a goal as well. And I watched him on Sunday. And I don't know if it's because Old Trafford's a lot of space, but I thought he played brilliant. His passing, the weight of the pass all the time, the chances he was creating, I thought, yeah, to me, he looked right on form. The only thing what I would say is Bournemouth is a tight pitch, so he might not have that space. But I think that type of player, if you get a little bit of legs and a little bit of pace aside of him, they enjoy it, don't they? So I'm going to go Fernandes, and I'll go for slightly safer. I think he'll get an assist, but I'm going to go for goal or assist, and Fernandes as the player to put in your team.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm going to pick a fellow midfielder in line with the fancy footy, and I'm going to copy yours and go with a goal or assist for Harry Wilson and see what that brings. So Harry Wilson, Fulham are playing Burnley at home to Burnley. So yeah, I'll go Harry Wilson, goal or assist anytime, and see what that brings. While Kate's talking about it, I'll just have a look and see what the odds are. So
I like the Harry Wilson one. I was looking at the Fulham game trying to find a midfielder that I could do in there, so I really like that one because I think they can get a clean sheet and grab themselves a goal or assist. I'm going to build off Collins, though. I have Mbeumo because Bournemouth do have a tight pitch, but they love to play really high up, and I just wanted pace in behind on this team here, and Mbeumo is that guy, and it'll probably get into a couple of positions where he'll have a couple of shots or a couple of spots to pass over for easy enough conversion. So I do like the Fernandez one, and hopefully he does it right to Mbeumo.
Yeah, vice versa.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're rooting for a Man United win convincingly now at the weekend, aren't we? And that's quite new for us. That
just some goals, I guess.
Get beat 3-2.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly, 3-2. Perfect.
Are you able to get a price on that, Paul, or is it a bit too early?
To score, I do decimals, sorry, it's 2.75 anytime for Harry Wilson. To score first, it's 6.5. So I'm just going to see if I can find an assist.
Yeah, minus 130. I don't know what that plays out decimal-wise, but it's close enough to even.
That's not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah, so we'll price it up and we'll share it on the Instagram.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, good shout. We can carry that on for the next ones, and yeah, let's see who comes up with team of the week. I think, as you say, Cole, it's getting to do all day time, and I think everyone's looking at the differentials. Everyone's looking at the double game weeks, the blank game weeks. Everyone's probably still sat on chips, so we'll see what happens there. And
I've used all my chips out of desperation, to try and hang in there.
Have you? I've still got all 4. I hold off until you start getting to your blank game weeks. You can bring your wild cards in, but then you triple captain, because chances are as the fixtures pile up, you get your double game weeks, don't you? And if you get a Haaland or an Ekatike or something like that, sometimes it kind of works out. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm just looking at mine now. Obviously, I've got Man City players out. I've got Gay and Haaland, so I'm going to need to draft someone in and see what happens. So yeah, be an interesting one this week.
I just use mine. It's like having a free bet of a Monday. I always throw it on the Monday night game rather than save it for the Tuesday or the Wednesday games.
I remember when I first started playing it, I think I played my triple captain on the first weekend, and everyone was going, "What the hell is he on about?" Luckily, Bobby Firmino got a brace, so it didn't punish me too bad. But I thought, you just used them and didn't have a clue when I first started playing. So
exact thing I did. Just used it right away. I was like, "Oh, these probably reset at some stage."
Yeah, and I think you've got to be mindful of the rule changes, because I think that was one of the things this time around, wasn't it? They reset after New Year, so that nearly caught me out. I think I just made it on the last weekends before my chips reset. So
they done a manager one, didn't they, last season? Then didn't bring it back in this season, but it was just think it was just too confusing, weren't it?
I don't know. I picked slot, so I done all right, actually. I managed to get quite a few more points. I thought it was an interesting one.
Yeah.
I was surprised they didn't bring it back, but I think there's been that many chops and changes this time around. You know, you don't know which managers are coming in, so maybe they just don't want to add the new managers every time someone gets the bullet. So, especially at Tottenham. So yeah, it's we'll see what happens.
You probably get the same. Everybody using the same three managers anyway, right? It's just the three winningest managers. You get points for like them winning and stuff. It's probably just Pep and Arteta and Slot.
Here's an interesting score while we're doing this. Sporting a 3-0 up. They were 3-0 down from the first leg, weren't they?
I bet them to advance last week, so I have that on
Did
my
ya?
screen right here. I've been
price
watching it. The whole pod is just up here, just like looking at it.
What price was it, Kurt?
5-1.
Oh, brilliant! Crack on that.
So I'd like them to get one more before extra time. I don't want to go to extra time.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel for Bodo Glimt. I was rooting for them after the first leg win, but yeah, looks like Sporting. Yeah,
it would be funny to see Arsenal go up there. I would like to see what that's like. It's a weird pitch. They play on like the fake turf and stuff. Really funky.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Bodo Glimt would probably do better against Arsenal and Sporting, but yeah, it looks like they're really up against it at this moment in time.
Couple of good games tonight, isn't it? Madrid City, and Chelsea and Paris as well. Which one will you watch or will you flick?
City. Chelsea gave up a few too many at the end there, I think. And PSG are so talented up front and quick. Like they probably just score on the break at some stage. I could kind of see City maybe turning it all the way over. I don't think I can see it with Chelsea really.
Yeah, it was good Valverde, wasn't he, in that last match? Not just his goals. I think he's a cracking little player. Then
he's like what Milner was at the end for us, except he's like 26 and fully healthy. He can play anywhere and run. And
I made the comparison of that. What was the Inter Milan player who plays all over the place? He played till he was about 42. He played right back and centre mid and everywhere. The name's just slipped my mind now.
I don't know.
Zanetti. Yeah.
Zanetti, yeah, there we go.
Zanetti, yeah. He reminds me of him a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably going to watch the Chelsea PSG game more for the entertainment value. I think it's probably got more interest than Man City Real Madrid. I can just see the Man City one turn into a bit of a war of attrition, whereas Chelsea, they're that batshit crazy that there'll be a few goals. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you can get 6 goals in the Chelsea game for sure.
Yeah, easy.
Cool, great stuff. So I think we're all wrapped up for this week. So Col, you're off on your jollies. You're going to be pissing off for a couple of weeks. So,
yeah. You're going to run it for us, yeah?
I'm going to have to, aren't I? I'm going to have to. So we'll see what happens. I'll have to look at my file facts and see what I've got planned for the next couple of weeks. I'm sure there'll be something there. A bit of a curveball somewhere.
Like Michael Douglas.
Honestly. Well, I already know April Fool's Day. I'm already out, so I can't do that one. So that's that. But we'll see what comes up next week. I'll be sorted, and yeah, we'll box it off. But we'll nearly Easter, so we could do an Easter one maybe. See what happens there.
Yeah. That's great, brilliant, that lads.
Spot on, boys. Spot on. So yeah, good luck with the bets tonight, Kate. Hope you do well. And yeah, we'll see what the weekend's bets brings. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Cheers, gents.
Have a good one, guys.
Boys.
Catch you later.